Hello and welcome to Tech Deals. This is an i7-7700K. This is an RTX 2070, and this is the $1,500 Cadillac build that I did on this channel in January of 2017. For those of you who have not been keeping track, that is now over 6 years ago, if only just, as I record this in March of 2023. i7-7700K, 4 cores, 8 threads, the last of the flagship 4-core chips from Intel, at least on the consumer line, until they went with the 8700K and moved to 6 cores. This is not the video card the machine was built with, although this is almost, not quite, a few things have been changed, but almost the exact machine that was built back then. And I know many of you watched those build videos, you followed along, and I have definitely gotten a lot of messages from many of you saying, hey, I'm still using a 7700K or similar. How does it perform today? Well, today we're going to find out. Now, as I said before, the graphics card was upgraded. We have a RTX 2070. I think it is reasonable that in the past 6 years, if you kept your machine, you may very well have upgraded the graphics card. However, I have an easy way for you to adjust the results you're about to see in the upcoming games. Everything you're about to watch is 1440p. A RTX 2070 will run many games at 1440p at about the same performance in terms of frame rate as the original GTX 1070 would at 1080p. So if you have a 1070, just play at 1080p and you'll get similar numbers. It is by no means exact and it's going to vary from game to game, but it is a rough analogy you can use to figure out how close is this to my computer if you don't have this graphics card. The RAM has also been upgraded. There's 32 gigabytes of DDR4 3600 in there, which was not what it was built with in January of 2017. And the SSDs have been changed and upgraded, but those aren't going to affect the results that we see. The cooler, the power supply, the case, all of those are still original. If you would like to see more about this build, the full playlist will be down in the video description below. I did a parts overview, a Y vlog, a build video, benchmarks back then, although obviously everything has changed, including the games tested, drivers, windows, everything has changed. It's not super relevant in 2023, but I know many of you like to go back and watch the older videos, and if you're watching this today, it might be an interesting trip down memory lane, and I will, of course, add this video to that playlist as well. The 4 games that we will be testing today are Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Cyberpunk 2077, The Division 2, and XCom 2. 2 very important points. These are not the newest, latest, greatest games. I had requests from several viewers over on Twitter, link in the video description below, asking me to test Hogwarts Legacy or something very, very new. This is a completely inappropriate CPU to play Hogwarts Legacy on. You can, it will launch, run, and display frames, but if you want to play Hogwarts Legacy, you need a system replacement. But those are games that are representative of what I think people who have these sorts of machines are going to want to run, and they should run well. I say should. XCom 2 is an interesting one. I have quite a few mods installed, and I'll mention that a little bit more later when we have that loaded. Not 457 mods, but it's definitely more than 50. And games like XCom 2 are great because the minute you load it up with mods, you can start to see its RAM usage, CPU usage, and GPU usage when you've downloaded everything. Excellent game if you haven't played it. The other 3 games are in stock configuration. Everything, as I said earlier in the video, is at 1440p. Everything is at ultra detail. Ray tracing is turned off in Cyberpunk. Yes, the RTX 2070 does support ray tracing. It does not support ray tracing well enough to play at 1440p with ray tracing turned on. Maybe 1080p, but that sort of defeats the point. Everything was set to default settings. So in Cyberpunk, we're running with the updated version as of March of 2023. DLSS was off. FSR was on. That's an important point. Now you might say, you have an NVIDIA card. Why wasn't DLSS turned on? Because that is not the default configuration of ultra detail ray tracing off in Cyberpunk. I want to test with the default configuration because it's much easier for you to set your own computers to that setting, and then you can compare the performance with what you're about to see on the screen. If I were actually playing, yes, I would probably turn FSR off and DLSS on, but this way, you can see how it would also run with an equivalent performance card from AMD, which would be a RX 6700 XT or thereabouts to get somewhat similar performance. Without any further ado, please grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's get into it. Buy Windows 10 Professional for $15, activate instantly online with Microsoft, and keep it forever. Don't pay full price. Get the best deal from our sponsor, URCD Keys, using our link in the video description below. Full details on how this amazing deal works at the end of the video. First up, we have Assassin's Creed Syndicate, starting off with a nice little stroll through the streets. And for a 2015, these graphics are incredible. Now, I'm going to get into some fighting here in just a minute, but I thought this was a nice way to show the streaming map and how well this runs on an older machine. Okay, older game, but it still runs pretty well for 1440p ultra detail. You can see the real-time frame rate in the upper left-hand corner is absolutely not maintaining 60 frames per second, but that's honestly the fault of our graphics card. I think it's interesting that a $500 graphics card from 2018 is not able to run at 1440p ultra at 60 frames a second in a 2015 title. Thanks, Ubisoft. The CPU usage is absolutely fully tasked out in terms of cores, and we're into the hyper-threading at least a little bit. You'll notice we're at 56, 54, 49% right there, but there are times when it will get up into the 60s and 70s. Remember, on a 4-core, 8-thread machine, 50% is all the cores and the rest are threads. Take 100%, divide by the number of threads. In this case, we have 8 threads. You get 12.5% per thread. 50% all the cores, and then the rest is hyper-threading. RAM usage isn't too bad. It'll run in 16 gigs of RAM if you're not doing anything else on your machine. And the VRAM usage, as I commented in the standalone review, is quite high for a 2015 game. Nearly 6 gigabytes of VRAM being used at 1440p in a game that came out 8 years ago? Yeah, I mean, unless you had an R9 390X or a GTX 980 Ti, you weren't playing this at 1440p ultra detail, or you'd have to turn the textures down. But let's be honest, either one of those cards would be running this at about 10 frames per second at the moment, so you're not doing that regardless. In that case, I guess it really isn't a problem. I discussed that more in the standalone video. The frame time graph, however, is very smooth. I played this for an hour. It really was fine. It was remarkably controllable. Not perfect. There are times in larger encounters with more enemies I would like a higher frame rate, maybe a little bit more control, but really it wasn't that bad. It was better than I expected it to be. I expected it to have more frame rate stutters and more dips in combat, and it really didn't. Granted, it should be fine given the age, but considering that this is Ubisoft and considering, stay out of the street, dude, you're gonna get run over by a carriage, it really wasn't that bad. Moving right along to Cyberpunk 2077, this game ran way better than I expected, and yet way worse at the same time. Or rather, I should say, it will run worse in parts. Please watch my standalone review if you're serious about this. I go into it at great detail, but the TLDR version is we are at 80+% CPU usage. All the cores are being used. We are deep into the hyper-threading. The frame time graph is spiking all over the place. It is playable. It is absolutely positively playable, but it is not what I would call smooth and responsive. There's a lagginess to the controls, which is annoying, and on better machines that is not there. There is a hesitation to certain elements and parts that is not there on better machines. You totally could play this, but my goodness, it's absolutely maxed to the limit. Please keep in mind also that all of these benchmarks you're seeing are on a completely clean test bench. We have a relatively fresh and clean install of Windows 10 on this machine. We've got nothing running in the background. Everything is turned off except for MSI Afterburner is running, and of course Steam is installed because I have this game on Steam. Other than that, there's no other launchers running, there's no antivirus running, there's no recording going on because the recording is done on a second machine. I have a standalone machine with a hardware capture card taking the HDMI output for the video card, so the video card doesn't even know it's being recorded. In terms of graphics card usage, it's just pegged right to the top because an RTX 2070 at 1440p Ultra is really pushing it. It'll do it, and certainly for this CPU, any more would not be necessary. You can get better performance at these detail settings. Remember, we do not have ray tracing on. You can get better better frame rate with a better video card at these settings. If you had a 3070 in here, you'd be looking at something in the 75 to 85 frame rate range. If you had a 3090, you could be up near the 100 range. but you'd come back down towards 60, maybe 70 if you turn ray tracing on. Such is the nature of ray tracing these days. We do have FSR on, not DLSS, and that's because I'm using the stock settings in version 1.6 of this game, not the customized versions, which honestly I would really be running if I had the choice. The Division 2 came out in 2018 and runs amazingly well on this CPU in single player mode. As I detail in much greater detail in the standalone video, multiplayer, no. We are at 70% CPU usage, but thankfully we have a very smooth frame time graph. This was very playable. I played for an hour. I cleared several control points. It was nice. The frame rate's also not bad as well. We're averaging 66 right here in terms of our rolling average. It's 74 at the moment, but at 66. The game actually ended up with an average of 72 across about an hour of play. Very nice, totally playable. Stay out of the multiplayer, stay out of the dark zone. You'll be just fine on a i7-7700K, unless you want 144 frames per second. If you do have a high refresh rate monitor and you do want higher frame rates, a better and faster CPU is the only way to do it. Thankfully, this game is very well optimized for multiple cores. If you've got an 8, 12, or yes, even 16 core CPU, it will use them all to give you a higher, smoother frame rate, especially in heavy encounters. If you like cover shooters like this, it really is a lot of fun. You can pick up the Division and the Division 2, and I do recommend playing the first one first. If you haven't played either one of these, they can be picked up for next to nothing these days. I think there's an Ubisoft sale going on right now, at least at the time of recording. Probably not when you're watching this, but I've seen this game, the complete deluxe super mega edit, whatever they call the highest end edition these days. You know how they have a standard, a deluxe, a premium, a plus, an ultra, an ultimate, a game of the year, a complete, and a super mega complete. Yes, it's as ridiculous as it's whatever. The version with all of the thingies and the DLCs and the expansions. I saw it for like $9 on Steam the other day, and yes, you can get this on Steam now. You don't have to get it through the Uplay downloader anymore. Both EA and Ubisoft have both discovered that people don't want 14 different game launchers in their test tray. So they're starting to bring games back to Steam at this point. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, for example, was on Steam, whereas the first one wasn't, the recent re-releases. So you can pick this up for next to nothing, and you can pick up the Division 1 and play it for the story. If you like it, it's definitely worth having some fun with. It's a lot of fun. I probably have over 500 hours of actual gameplay between the two games. XCom 2 should run wonderfully on this machine, and it will if you're running the stock game. I am not. Now, I detailed the reasons for this more in the standalone video, but the TLDR version is I am running a heavily modded version of this game. This has one of the best modding scenes I've seen outside of Skyrim and Fallout. And it's supported by the Steam Workshop. You can download all the mods directly within Steam. It's super easy, barely an inconvenience. There's more than 50 mods. I didn't count them. It's possible I have 100 mods installed. And that is what is causing this absolutely atrocious performance. It does run better on a faster CPU. On my old i9-9900K that I recently replaced with a 7950X, I really didn't have a problem running it. It's still frame time spiked, and it still did come down at times, but it was much, much better than this when I was playing with all these mods installed. I have over 1,000 hours played in this game at this point, perhaps more than any other game I've played for the past 10 years. World of Warships would come a very close second, City Skylines would come a close third, and Cyberpunk, The Division 2, Ghost Recon Wildlands would all probably be just beyond all of those. Regardless, it really is as bad as it looks. What you're seeing here with the stutters and the jumps and the frame time graph is exactly how this thing really was playing. It's playable. It's a turn-based game. You don't have to have great performance to play it. This was awful. This really was terrible. Now, it's worst case scenario. This is the final battle of the game. I have way more of my soldiers with me than I should have because of mods. They are wearing more different outfits with more customization, using more VRAM, using more main system RAM than you would have in the vanilla game. So the TLDR version is without mods or with very light mods, maybe 5 or 10 mods, this is fine. But if you want to go to town with mods, just like Skyrim, just like Fallout. If you're going to load 50 plus mods, if you're going to do total conversions, completely change everything, new voices, new skins, new maps, new weapons, new everything, you absolutely need way more computer than the game designers developed the game for. And in this case, a minimum of something like a Ryzen 7 3700X or an i9-9900K would be the least I'd play this game with if you're fully modded. Thank you so much for watching through all of that. A bonus gold star to all of you who watched all 4 benchmarks. But if you didn't, that's okay. That's what timestamps are for. I have been considering doing a death of 4-core CPU video, similar to my recent FX retirement video and the death of the HEDT. I already did death of Threadripper video. I imagine a video titled 4 cores are dead, long live 8 cores would get a lot of hate online. It's the internet, what do you expect? It's almost as bad as Reddit. On the other hand, it's not really a true statement. This machine does really well if you, the Division 2 is a great example. If you run a game that was designed for this, it's really not that bad. You can absolutely keep using this. The thing is, a lot of people play live service games. Overwatch 2 recently came out. Fortnite has had some massive upgrades to it. World of Tanks and World of Warships keep getting upgraded. Games that are live service games keep getting updated, and some of them really are moving on beyond the 4-core world. They'll run on it. Fortnite especially. My daughter has a very nice Ryzen 9 5900X at home. That's a 12-core, 24-thread chip. She has commented to me over the past 12 months that she has noticed the CPU usage has grown and grown as they've come out with more and more patches. Yes, I have MSI Afterburner installed on my kids' computers. I've shown them how to use it so that they can monitor their stats and see how much CPU and RAM and everything they're using. It helps make them more informed users. And my daughter actually said to me the other day, she's a huge Fortnite player. I mean, she's way better at it than I am. She goes, "Dad, you know how you're always saying you need more cores? Fortnite's really using a lot of them now." I said, "Yep, that's what happens with live service games. When Fortnite first came out, it didn't need 8 cores, but it will use them today, and it makes it a smoother, better experience with much better 1% lows and an overall better experience." Windows updates. Oh boy, Windows updates. Looking for a Windows 10 or 11 product key, but you don't want to spend $100 to $200 for it? Our sponsor, URCD Keys, provides discounted Windows keys at amazing prices. $15 for Windows 10 Professional, $21 for Windows 11 Professional, and just $60 for Microsoft Office 2021 Professional Plus. These product keys are the real deal. They activate directly with Microsoft Online, link to your Microsoft account, and they work forever. For Windows, you simply go to Settings, Update and Security, Activation, click Change Product Key, paste the key provided by URCD Keys, and in seconds, you're activated with Microsoft. For Office, go to setup.office.com, sign in with your Microsoft account, paste the product key provided by URCD Keys, and then download Office 2021 Pro Plus directly from Microsoft. Remember to use the discount code TD20 to save 25% off the already deeply discounted prices and support our channel at the same time. We have been using product keys from URCD Keys for almost 5 years now without any issues and encourage you to do so as well. This took forever to update. Between installing the latest version of Windows 10, running through all the Windows Update patches, getting the latest video drivers installed, downloading all the latest game launchers. I mean, everything was installed on here. This was all set up and running. It had the games installed, but everything needed a patch because it hadn't been plugged in for a while. It took all afternoon to update, and I'm on a gigabit fiber connection, gigabit up and down. I have premium NVMe SSDs in here. I've got a quality SATA SSD in here, but it was slow, and the CPU was basically pegged out. All 4 cores and a lot of the hyper-threading was being used to update. Now, some of you may say, well, so what? I'll leave my machine on overnight. It'll update then. And that's a true statement. There's nothing wrong with that statement. But the difference between going from this machine to a modern machine is dramatic and noticeable. Opening Chrome tabs, just starting to play YouTube videos, scrolling through Twitter, the snappiness and the responsiveness of a modern machine compared to a 7700K, just browsing the web, is noticeable. It's functional, it works, but it is not the same as a new machine. But if you're used to this, you probably think it's fine. Use a new machine, and you'll be like, dear God, why didn't anybody tell me to upgrade? We did, you just didn't want to hear it. But it does the job and it works. And it's amazing that a 6-year-old machine works as well as it does. In any case, let me know what you think of this down in the comment section below. I will be reading your comments and replying to those that are thought-provoking and interesting. I do appreciate your time taken to watch this video. 2 gold stars to all of you still here. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. And let me know what you want to see covered next. What other builds have I done in the past that you would like to see this type of follow-up on? I don't know that I'll do anything else with this machine at this point. I'm going to test these 4 games. I could test others, but what would you really want to see at this point? I don't have some of the older machines that I've originally tested. I don't have the i7-7800K. I don't have the Threadrippers. I've already dismantled my i9-10980XE, not that that matters. Let me know in the comments below which other builds I've done you would like to see tested with an how does it work in 2023 sort of like this. Thank you so much for watching. I will see all of you next time.